Okay, welcome back to Strength Coach Tutorials. And in today's tutorial, we're going to finish off the Ultimate Team Calendar. A reminder of where we've gotten to so far. In part one, we designed the whole calendar template to make everything look nice and give us a platform where we can put all of our sessions onto. And then in part two, we created the load and the time scale and made it so that we're able to actually add the RPE and time values and then calculate a total workload for each session. In today's video, we're going to add the session titles down the left-hand side, have a selectable box where you can actually select any session that you would like to put in, as well as add the weekly and monthly workload graphs on the right side here, which will give us an opportunity to look at our loading schemes throughout the month and make any changes that might be needed. So let's get into it. Okay, so here we are with the template like we finished off in Strength Coach Tutorials number 34. And just a reminder for how far we've come in the last two videos. The first video, number 33, showed how to create this actual calendar template, as well as how to hide week 5 if you had a calendar that doesn't have, or a month that doesn't have 5 weeks. And then I showed you how to create the dates and then have an automatically updating date all the way through your calendar based on your first value. And then in Strength Coach Tutorials 34, we went through and we created the load and the time scale, which are automatically going to format our RPE values based on the values that we type in. So just as an example of how that works, as I change the numbers, the colors change to match the value on the scales over here. So if you'd like to know how to do that, go back to Strength Coach Tutorials number 34, where I show you how to complete that. And then finally, we added this total workload bar at the bottom here, which takes the product of all of the RPE and time values for each day, and then color codes it according to all of the other values in the month, so that at a glance, you can have a look at which days have the highest workloads and which are moderate and which are low. So today, we're going to take all of those workloads and we're going to put them on some graphs so that we can look at them at a glance and kind of determine the loading patterns that our weeks have throughout the month. And this is going to be a good tool that we can use to show our coaches what the loading actually looks like across the entire month. So as a quick reminder, if you want to support the channel, please go and like and subscribe, and then there's a little bell notification that you can click on that automatically updates you whenever I create a new video. And then if you want to further support the channel, you can actually purchase this sheet on DSMStrength.com, and it is already pre-created for you, and I've done all the heavy lifting, and if there's any questions with that, you can reach out to me, but that's available for purchase. So there's going to be a link in the description for that. So let's get into today's video. So what I've done here is I've already pre-formatted the sidebar here, and in a lot of the sheets that I'll work with, I'll generally add these smaller columns in between things because I think it adds a nice separator and gives me a little bit of separation between the workload graphs I'm about to add and then the actual sheet that I'm using. So I've pre-outlined where I'm going to put the actual workload graph. And what we're going to use is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, and then 2 rows. And the way that this calendar is actually set up is there are basically 7 rows here on purpose so that when I go to create this workload graph, it's going to match up very nicely to our actual calendar. So I'm going to start to put that in. And to make sure that formatting stays very similar, I'm going to copy the master calendar up here, and then I'm just going to right click and paste the formatting, and then I'm going to be able to merge this together, and I'm going to type in weekly workload. And what that actually did is because I only pasted the formatting, now I can make sure that all of my titles look very similar to each other. And I can make sure that all the colors stay very consistent. So then the next thing that I want to put in here is I'm just going to put a big border around here. And I go down to the borders tool, so up to borders all the way down. And I really like the thick one, so there's a thick line border here. And I'm just going to put it around all 4 sides. And then I'm going to add the spot where I have my date and my workload. So I'm going to take this formatting again, control copy, and I'm going to paste that in here. And it's merged those cells, so I'm just going to unmerge them quickly, and I'm going to put in date and workload. And I like to put in square brackets AU for arbitrary units and hit enter. And you can see that those are obviously very big. So I'm going to just shrink those down so that I'm able to actually see them in the cell. So now you can see that I have those 2 points there. And from there, I'm going to start to shape my boxes where I'm actually going to put my graphs. So I would know that Monday goes there, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm going to block these off with a thick border. I'll put a thick border across the top. So that's where my actual dates are going to go, and I'll put thick borders throughout here. I'll put a slightly less thick one in the middle. So that looks pretty good. And then what I'll do is I know I'm going to put a graph in here, so I'm going to put a thick border around there. Okay, and then I'm just going to merge these cells to kind of signify that that's where a graph is going to go. So now we have this sheet here, or this box here that's all blocked off, and we can actually use this now to put our values into. So the first thing I want to do is I want to actually take these dates, and I want to make sure that they match the dates on my calendar. So the first one I need to do is if I hit equals and then go all the way over to Monday and hit OK, you can see that it thinks all of, okay, so it's just pasted the format throughout. So I'm just going to choose a different font here and make it a little bit smaller so we can see. And I'll make that go in the middle. So you can see what it's done is it's taken the date Monday, April 6th, and it's put it in there. Now, for here, I want to also have the date, and I want the numbers of the date. I'm just going to make a custom format here instead. So for Monday, April 6th, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select there. I'm going to go up to here, go down to more number formats, and select custom. And I actually want it to probably be, I want it to say Monday because I like the way that that looks. But then I want the month and then dash the day. And that's just how I like to do the dates on my formulas here. So you can see it's Monday 0406. So Monday, April 6th. And then if I hit below it, actually I'm going to paste this format throughout just so it all looks the same. Okay, it's moved my borders all around, so I'll just fix those quickly. I'm going to put dash borders in there. So we have Monday, April 6th. Maybe I'll bold that so that it shows up a little bit better. And then I know that this is now equal to a date value. So if I just put equals this cell plus 1, I'll get Tuesday, and then I can probably drag that down, and it'll take me all the way to Sunday. And I want those bolded. So I'll bold those out, and then I'll just fix my borders here. And because that's referring to this cell over here as my first one, if I were to change this, say instead of April 6th, we went to April 13th, what you'll see is all of these dates change as well because they're all a cell reference to here. So I'll put that back to April 6th. Okay. So that works really well. Then the next thing that I want to do is I actually want to pull my workloads into here. So the easy way to do that is if I just hit equals and then go to my actual workload cells, E17, and it still thinks it's a date, so I'm going to put that back to general, and it's going to pull it in as a 0. And then I can go to the next one, I17 equals M17 equals Q17 equals U17 equals, oh, U17 correct, equals Y17 equals AC17. So if I just put those all back to numbers, make them general format. What you'll notice is they're all zeros right now, but as I start to add sessions in, you're going to start to see the values over here, and I can do this all the way throughout. I'm just going to add some sessions in just so that we have some data to play around with. It's going to give us something to kind of look at. Whoops, that should be 90. Maybe a 30-minute session there, and maybe a 30-minute yoga session there. And then maybe we have a 9 for a 90-minute game, and then a 2 for a 30-minute recovery. So now we actually have some data in there. And from there, we just have to create our graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select all of these values and go to Insert. And I want a bar graph. So I'm going to select bar graph. And I'm going to insert a clustered column bar graph. Hit OK. And that looks pretty good. I don't need the chart title because I have the weekly workload title up there, and it's going to be sitting right beside week 1. So I can click chart title and hit delete. And then another trick is I actually want it to fit in this box here. So if I hit format and then there's an align tab, I can put snap to grid and snap to shape. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to allow me to match it up to the cells. So I'm going to drag that across. And I'm going to just fit it right in there. So now that graph just sits neatly in the side, but you can see it's covered up our borders. So what I'm actually going to do is if I click on it, I'll get this option here for the paintbrush, and that gives me chart styles. And sorry, if I right click here, if I right click on the chart, I can hit format chart area, and that'll bring up the side here, and it'll give me options to actually change what the chart is formatted like. So I want the background, which is here, to actually be, I want no fill. So I want it transparent. So you can see now when I do that, it makes it look like there's no fill around it. And then as a line, I don't want a border. We're going to put no line. So now you can see that that chart now fits neatly in the outline box that we already have. I'm going to do a couple other things here. I'm just going to select these on the side and Control B to bold them, and then here I'm going to bold these. And then I think that looks pretty good. But if I want to take it a bit further to make this look a little nicer, if I select on the actual boxes here, or the columns, I can go to their formatting, and maybe I want them to be red because they are actually a workload value, so I can make them red. But maybe I want them to be a pattern fill, and I can use this bar here, and that actually gives them a nice look. So I'm going to do that for all of them. So we're going to go pattern fill, red, and you can see that now that looks probably a little bit nicer. And you can see at the top, kind of the half line there kind of signifies somewhere in between the two values. And to me, that just looks like a good workload type graph. Now, again, we could format this any way we wanted. We could have another line going through here if we wanted an acute to chronic type line going through, or really anything you wanted to do there. Then the last thing I want to do is I actually just want to format these so that they have a color on them, so that the highest values are red, just so I can at a glance take a look and figure out where my workload values are at. And I'm just going to change the border around a little bit. So there. Now you have sort of our workload values here pulling off of the calendar, and at a glance we can sort of look what our loading scheme looks like for the week. Then from there, it's pretty easy. We're just going to copy and paste this down. So I'm going to copy and then go down one, paste it, and I just have to change some values around. So because this is referring to C18 now, which is not what we want it actually to refer to this Monday up here. So if I go to equals and then click on, in this case, AF11, and then add 7, it'll give me the next Monday. And then we want this to go all the way through. So we have Tuesday the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. And then here, instead of 17, we want them to refer to row 25. Okay. And there are no workload values in there. And because we've left the values open, they should all move down automatically. So if we add some of our workload values in there, I'm going to just copy and paste these in so we can look at it. What you'll see is the chart actually updates automatically. And just to make sure, we're going to go here and pick select data. And we're going to make sure that our series 1 is referring to the right spot. And it's not, it's actually referring to the graph up above. So we're going to reselect the new workloads. Okay. And then we'll make sure that the dates are on the right dates. Reselect those. Okay. And you can see when we've done that, it's reset our formatting here. So we'll just do the same thing. We'll select here, go back to gradient or picture texture, sorry, pattern fill, and then put those back. So I'm just going to do this all the way down for all of our different charts. And another way you can do this is actually, if I select right on the chart, if I select right on the chart, it's going to show me where the two boxes are, and I can just move them down to the new data. So you can see this one's up here. Can move those down. Select right on the chart. It's going to show me where the purple and the blue box are, and I'm just going to move those down to the new data. So now if I'm correct, if I paste this data in on week 5 just to check to make sure that everything works, everything should work accordingly. But we're just going to have to reformat all of these. So I'm going to make them pattern to make them all look the same. So I'm going to paste some data in each one just so I have something to work off of. Whoops. Pattern and pattern. Okay, so now all of our charts are working the way that we want. And just to check that, we could add a value in here, say a session 9 of 120 minutes, and it's going to make this chart go up automatically. So that all works the way we want. But the next thing you might want to do is you might want to add a monthly workload option. So if I insert all these cells, so Control C, and then right click, insert copied cells. I just want to put this guy in here. What I don't need is any of these, so I'm just going to kind of merge all these together just to get rid of them quick. And I'll just take any formatting away from that. No borders, and then no fill. So that just makes that go away. I'm going to make this a monthly workload. And instead of actual dates here, I'm going to make that general. And maybe I just want it to be week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. And instead of the actual workloads from the days, maybe I want this to be all of the workloads from the week. So I'm going to hit sum, and I'm going to actually sum the workloads from the weekly workload chart and hit enter. And then I'll hit sum all the workloads from the next one, enter, equals sum. We'll do the week 3, enter, equals sum, week 4, enter, and then the last one equals sum, week 5, enter. And then the last ones I'm just going to delete. because I don't need anything there. And the rest of these cells I'm going to delete as well. Delete all these graphs. And then I'll just take the formatting off all of these cells to make them go back to normal. Put the thick box around this one more time. Make that look nice, and then I'll unmerge all of these cells. So now we have a weekly workload graph, but you can see if I were to click on here, it's still referring to these ones over here. So I just take these and move them. It's not going to let me move them very easily. It's only going to let me move them up and down. So I'm actually going to reselect. So what I'll do is I'll click on here and I'll right click, hit select data. And for series 1, I'll hit edit and the little arrow here. And I'm going to actually just select week 1 to 5. Okay. And series 1 will be the actual workloads. Hit OK. And then for here, instead of the dates, we're going to make it refer to week 1 to 5. And I'll make these values look the same as the other ones. So we'll go to pattern fill and make those bigger. So now you can see just quickly, we have a monthly at a glance now. And just to check if it works, I'll delete some of the workloads out of the month. And you can see that that's changed the bar there. So that's a quick and easy way to just add weekly and monthly workloads to your sheets. And it just gives you an idea to look at your loading at a glance. And then finally, what I'm going to show you how to do is using some of the tricks that we've used in previous Strength Coach tutorials. I'm just going to make all of the sessions actually selectable through a drop-down. So the same way we've done before, we're just going to take, I've got some pre-formatted stuff out here. We're just going to take this and I'm going to turn it into a table. So I'm going to select all the titles across the top and make it a table. So if I select all the cells, I can hit format as table, and it doesn't really matter what style I make it, but I'm going to put my table has headers. And then a quick and easy trick for drop-down menus is if you leave the first value blank, so the first row in this case, when I go to my drop-down menu, it will always start at the top. So we'll always start at the first session. So that's why this first row is blank. And then from there, I'm going to name this table. So I click on it, go to table design, and right under table name, I'm going to put TBL sessions because it's going to house all of my sessions. And then the same way we've done for exercise lists, I'm going to just create a data validation down the side here. So I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to go to data validation. And I have all my headers stored in the actual header or in the headers of the table. So I'm going to hit list and then equals. I'm going to put indirect, bracket, quotation marks, TBL sessions, and then square bracket, hashtag headers, square bracket, quotation, close the bracket, hit OK. And what that's going to allow me to do is actually select all of my different types of sessions down the side. And this will be really useful if you just want to keep everything organized. Or we could add some boxes where you are adding up the RPs from just the strength sessions or just the ESD sessions and so on. So I'm going to put those in down the side. And then what I want to be able to do is actually refer here and be able to select the sessions from that box. So what I'm going to do is hit select all these cells and go back to data validation, list, and the formula just gets a little bit more complicated, but it's basically the same. Equals indirect, bracket, quotation, TBL sessions, square bracket, and then we want it to look for the actual cell reference. So I hit, I'm going to close that quotation because we only want to look at table sessions, and then we're going to add a cell reference and $B11, and $B12, B11 because we want it to look at B11, and then another and quotation, square bracket, quotation, close it off, hit OK. And what that's going to allow me to do is pull out any of the ones I have under titles or strength or ESD or movement, practice, etc. So if I want to just put in, say, a moderate day and we're doing upper body lift A, anaerobic conditioning number 1, movement, linear speed day number 1, practice is going to be easy practice, and then other, maybe we're doing a stretch and roll at the end. Now, as I start to build out my calendar, I can just use this as a planning tool and be able to put in all of my days. And because I've put the formula the way that I did, I should be able to copy this and then paste it here, and I should still be able to pull out any of the sessions from across there. So that's how you finish off the Ultimate Team Calendar. I hope that this video has helped you out, and the whole series for the Ultimate Team Calendar has helped you out. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to help you. And also, if you want to support the channel, I would love it if you could purchase the Ultimate Team Calendar from the website. Then that way you can understand how it all works. The sheet is unlocked, so you can play around with it however you want, make modifications as you want. As always, thanks for watching, and any requests for new videos, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you.